Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
Britain versus America. Who does it better? Does what better?
Does
I don't know,
what?
but
Yeah.
let's see.
Hello, this video is sponsored by BritBox, the premier streaming service for Britain's most beloved TV shows. I'm Lawrence Brown and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond now. One of those memos pertains to things and stuff. Specifically, things and stuff that one country does better than the other. And as somebody who's lived extensively in both countries, I am perhaps more primed than most people to give my verdict on it. Basically, this is going to be a straightforward video for which my team has concocted a list of categories, or as they say here in the United States, categories. And controversially, my job is to tell you which country does that thing best.
Okay, let's see.
Knowing that my hot takes will likely lose me 1,000 subscribers, if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now. In the meantime, who does it better, Britain or America? First category, welcoming visitors.
USA.
I think USA. It's kind of been consensus that Americans are very warm and welcoming, so I think USA.
I don't know that there's any country on earth that has absolutely perfected this, but as someone who's been a visitor
I think in Great Britain, if you're going someplace, they're going to give you like tea and some crumpets. And maybe some scones too.
Both countries, I suppose this is quite hard to decide. It's also made harder by the fact that airports are not particularly welcoming places. So I think this has to be judged once you've got in the taxi. And for the most part, Americans are very welcoming. Sometimes that is with a painted smile, whereas in Britain, those smiles tend to look less worked on. But I would say on the whole, I felt equally welcome in either country. So this one's a tie.
Wow.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
What does that mean?
Signage is...
Signage? Signage? I guess the road signs and stuff like that.
Oh.
is probably a big part of feeling welcome or not welcome in another country, because if it's not any good, you'll feel lost, which is probably why this book that I discovered at San Francisco Airport feels very apt. But on the whole, I've had good and bad experiences in either country. In America, specifically here in Chicago, signage can be bad when you're trying to cross a street downtown, because sometimes you'll have Google Maps with you, but the roads won't be labelled on the other side of the road, so you don't know what road it is, and you have to look at the other road.
No, I give it to USA. Because we do the number system, in Great Britain, I feel like you can say, go down Charlottetown.
I don't know how the streets are named in UK, so I can't speak about that, but I do feel like...
Go down the Abbey. Are you kidding me? It's going to be named after people.
In Lithuania, it is after people. In UK, I don't know. Well, not UK, Great Britain, he's still... I do feel USA has good signage. I've always been a fan of their signs. I think they have it very well. I don't know how in Chicago he doesn't have street signs. Here in Miami, every street has a sign.
I think the exception is like if it's an old town, like you know the original cities like Virginia, Washington.
Roads to find out what road that is, and then sometimes that's not clear, and you don't know which intersection you're at. On the other hand, back in Britain, a problem that's very common that I think is a little less common in America, signage on the front of establishments. Often don't know where to put an apostrophe. So while I'm sure 95% of the time both countries have good signage, it's the bad signage that sticks out to me, and in equal terms. So again, without wishing to sit on the fence, I would say this one is also a tie.
Public transport. Okay.
Yeah, UK takes the well,
I
GB
never
takes
say
that
that.
one. Nah, Underground is awesome. I love the Underground in London.
You did mention
Yeah,
that.
I'm definitely giving it to Great Britain.
Yeah.
I think anybody who's ever watched my channel before
And
might
I
have
think
any
it
funny...
looks like a classic, like it looked like from like the movies, like very classic looking.
You probably talk about the double decker.
Yes. That's really nice.
Yeah, but like overall, just regular day, the Underground. I really enjoyed the Underground.
And
which one?
I like the classic cars in England.
The cabs.
Yeah, the way it looks.
Okay.
Where this is going to go. I think Britain, while not even being the best in Europe for public transport, is still pound for pound more reliable than its American equivalent. Now, don't get me wrong, when I was in San Francisco last week, I absolutely love their trams. In Chicago, I love the L train when Chainsaw Jim isn't on board. But here's what America's lacking: a more comprehensive nationwide train network, buses in some cities that show up on a regular basis, and good long-distance buses, because Greyhound, whereas Britain has a more reliable and robust transport infrastructure. So I will go with Britain.
Walkability.
Yeah, Britain.
The only thing is if it's raining in Britain. Is it still walkable?
Yes, it's Britain.
It's quite hard to generalise, especially given the size of the United States. But despite the fact that Britain's public transport is superior, it is also more walkable. Because obviously in America there's a big reliance on cars. So a lot of American cities, Chicago being a fine example, built massive suburbs that expanded way beyond the actual city. And sometimes this is so far out that walking is just not a viable option. In Britain, everything's squished together more and often within walking distance. So it's not unusual for somebody to walk to the post office or the chip shop or the pub. Whereas in America, walking is much further down the list when it comes to everyday mobility. So going into a 4-2 lead, Britain wins the walkability category for my money.
Oh, the States.
I don't think we can like make a judgment here. You know, we've never been to a UK beach, and
I base it on the like if it's cloudy most days. I don't know if you're gonna have a good beach day.
Oh.
But here in the States, more likely to have a really good beach day.
I will give it to States for the reason that we have beaches that are more down south. They're warmer, like you know, the waters are warmer. So for that reason, I will also. Yeah, like I don't. Yeah, I can't say much about UK. I've never been, so I don't know. But just by climate itself, like, and also climate and variety of beaches. You know, we have the Atlantic, we have the Pacific. If you want to go to Hawaii, there is that. If you want to go all the way to Puerto Rico, there is that. If you want to go down to the Keys, you have the Gulf. I would give it to the States for the climate and the variety. I think in UK, if I had to guess, the beaches are, because you know it's a kind of small island, so obviously the climate is the same, and probably the terrains are similar too.
Beaches. This is going to be a hard one because I have some very fond memories of British beaches. Those in the southwest are particularly stunning during the summer months. On the other hand, the beach in Brighton is made of pebbles. I also grew up near a beach, even though it was often laden with used Durex products. Whereas in America, you know what? The beaches that I've seen tend to be quite clean. And because it's got an absolutely gigantic coastline, I think there's just a greater diversity of beaches, many of which I've not visited. But I have been to a beach on the west coast, the Great Lakes, Florida, and up in Maine. And I've always found them to be nice and well kept, and sometimes the bearer of a beautiful sunset. So on this score, I'm going to have to give the edge to America.
Countryside.
Who has the best countryside? Listen.
I'm not even for here in the States. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I'm gonna go with Great Britain for this one.
Why?
It's a tough one to pick.
Just a feeling. I can't even put it into words. I don't know.
I don't understand that at all. The response.
I'm gonna go with Britain and no explanation. Just
Okay.
I think America has a greater diversity of how countryside might look, depending on where you are in the country. And sometimes, like when I went out to West Virginia, the countryside is absolutely beautiful and rolling. On the other hand, while driving through the entire state of Indiana, sometimes the most interesting thing for 300 miles is a farmhouse. Whereas on the occasions that I visited Britain in the last few years, the countryside in its green splendour did something to me as it passed by the train, or as the train passed it. Physics was not my strong point. I think it was nostalgia, but it was also affirmation of my love of the colour green. In fact, when I think of Britain, my first thought is the friendliness of the countryside, and so I have no choice but to restore Britain's 2-point lead. Now the reverse of that, city life. Who does it better? And given the vast amounts of cities in both countries, this puts me in a difficult spot.
Yeah.
I've never been...
That's tough. I don't know. But how do you qualify it being better? What would be the qualifications?
And also city by city, like I don't... Honestly, this one I can only
different.
tie it because it's impossible to judge. I don't think you can, like, because cities are so different. What is city life in Aurora, Colorado is way different than city life in New York City. That is way different than city life in Miami, than different from Seattle, Washington, you know? So
I'm born in Liverpool, Manchester,
That'll be a
or
tie.
London. The same is true in Chicago, or San Francisco, or New York City. I think with this I'm going to have to let my emotions guide me and go back to a comment that I made in a video not too long ago, in which I said, sometimes when I'm walking down a street in Chicago, I just look around myself and go, oh my gosh, I live in America. And I think that feeling is particularly strong in a city, because you have so many visual markers of its Americanness. And this probably just plays into my childhood obsession with America. But sometimes with those huge skyscrapers and blinking lights,
I would think the country has more, like, kind of more American vibe than the city, though. To me, at least, I would think. the cities kind of whatever. Now the country, you know, you see like the flags everywhere, the guns, everything, like very like America.
I feel like I'm in a movie, and it's not altogether a bad feeling. So controversially, I'm going to go with American cities.
Oh,
so there's a lot more to
is
unpack
this
with
list?
that. So maybe there's a future video in my brain.
This one.
Well, film and TV, yeah, I'm gonna go with the States, kinda, yeah.
Film.
Although I do like certain British TV shows and movies.
I watched the movies and documentaries.
Yeah, it's not that they're bad. It's just USA produces way more, you know, and this, so yeah.
Like
Television.
there's a lot of actors that are actually British who are playing in American films. I think American films or no?
And I think it depends on which of those words we're talking about as to who wins. If it's film, America wins hands down. In fact, most of the films that I watched growing up in Britain were most likely American films. Wizard of Oz, Back to the Future, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and one criminally overlooked by the Academy, Herbie Rides Again. On the other hand, while there has been some absolutely excellent American television, I grew up more so on British stuff, which I kind of prefer for a number of reasons.
Like
Number one,
what?
our TV shows tend not to be as loud. And if it's BBC stuff, you don't have any ads, never mind an ad every 5 minutes. And I like the fact that on British television, a lot of the characters look like real people, as opposed to looking like they came straight from a modelling shoot. So for me, Britain gets the edge on television, meaning that film and television is a tie. And I've teamed up with
I
BritBox
wish
to
you
make it
gave
easier for you to
examples.
see your Brit.
What do you mean? He did.
Like some shows.
British shows?
Yeah. Some
Oh,
recommendations, because I got.
Downtown Abbey is British.
Oh.
What's the show I watched? Fuck. I forgot. No, but there's... I think he's spot on. And somebody left a comment yesterday, remember on the video USA versus UK? They said that American television is more like about... Not... Like more like a fantasy, more like, you know how with the whole American dream and like more optimistic, so it's kind of more like perfectionist.
Oh, it's not real life.
Yeah, it's not exactly right, whereas British television is more like real life, and as
It's real people.
Yeah, as he just said, real people that look like regular, and just the problems, I guess the scenarios, they're more like real day struggles, whereas Americans, they're more like fantasy kind of, not like fantasy, but like, for example, like Gossip Girl about like the rich people, you know,
Oh, I see that.
not too relatable. It's more like to detach you from reality to get, you know, whereas in UK you kind of to identify with them because that's the kind of stuff you love. So I think that would be the comparison probably.
Cary Grant.
What accent you got, kid? English.
Archie, starring Jason Isaacs in the title role. Grant
Oh,
was
that's
released.
promotion,
Shows
I
by
guess.
TV. Been up for a month.
Parks. Oh.
Yeah, I think
It's the States.
The States.
I think of instantly the Grand Canyon.
How do you decide which country has the best parks? Because mostly I hate parks, whether that's municipal parks, theme parks, or national parks. It's like, I like to share the
I didn't
space with
even
other
think of
humans
that.
and children. Which is why I like big parks, because all the crowds are more spread out. St James's Park in London is one such place, although I do have a vague memory of being attacked there by ducks. On the other hand, America has bigger parks and a smaller population density than the UK. So for example, when I visited the Benjamin Harrison State Park in Indiana, it almost felt like I was walking through the apocalypse, but with nice trees.
Wow,
And as much as
that's
British
scary.
people love the Lake District, or the Peak District, or the Cairngorms, they can't hold a candle to America's national parks. This is the country that came up with the idea in the first place. And when Alaska has 2 national parks that are larger not just than Snowdonia National Park in Wales, but also Wales, you know that the number of people per square mile will be smaller. So for my money, America's parks come with slightly more perks. Architecture, and that's
I
right.
guess this one is if you prefer like
That's
the
a tie.
old or new. So it's a tie. I prefer modern, so for me it's American. But if you prefer the older stuff, it's Britain.
Up my street, literally. I'm a
I
big
like
fan of
in
buildings.
White Lotus, the architectural design and the
Italy?
style. Yeah, and how people would style like the furniture and whatnot.
I like modern.
fine. And Britain has centuries worth of architecture and takes the preservation of it very seriously. America, on the other hand, doesn't so much. It is very telling that when you watch a
I don't
controlled
like the
demolition
box.
video on YouTube, the location is more often than not the United States. And yet, I am a big sucker for brutalism and tall buildings. And Chicago has plenty of that. In fact, it has a plethora of architectural styles, including not just brutalism, but Art Deco and new and I like it. I like what it does to me. It makes me feel like I should be a photographer who slings webs for a living. And so even though I have huge respect for stupidly old English minsters, I like the look of American city skylines and also some of the housing styles, including colonial style houses or other ones that I see around Chicago, like the Queen Anne style, or quite particular to Chicago, the Greystone. So for the first time in as many days, the United States of America has gone into the lead. But with this category, I dare say that
Yeah, that's Great Britain.
Goodbye.
America's chances of victory just took a major blow to the arse, because the American healthcare system is completely and utterly a little bit silly. And I don't just mean that from the point of view of the individual cost, but also, and I don't think people talk about this enough, how convoluted it is. And I first saw signs of this when I signed up for my first health insurance, when it started saying things like, you'll need to pay a deductible for this, or a copay for that. I don't know what any of those words mean, and that particular confusion was born out of the fact that in Britain, this scenario wouldn't even exist. Sure, we pay contributions to national health insurance, but after that, everything's covered by the National Health Service, which I miss, and so because of that, I make the scorecard. Britain 7, the United States 7.
With pro-playing sport, incredible happens here.
Ah, yes, food.
Ooh,
Also nice.
goodbye.
Problems. But which
Goodbye.
country generally?
Yeah, USA.
States.
Bloody hard one to answer, but I'm going to go with my intuition on this. You know, people often say to me, like, I can do anything about it, but ooh.
And USA, not because like the like original American food, like traditional, like if you want to say like the burgers, the hot dogs, whatever, not because that is better. It's
That
just
is better, yeah.
what?
That is better.
No, I'm not willing to say that. However, I just
They have
feel-
better burgers.
No,
and hot dogs?
I'm saying the variety of foods that, because the United States is such a melting culture pot, the variety of foods you can get is that's why it's taking the edge. Because you
Yeah.
can get anything you want in here.
I think in Britain you can get those variety too, but I don't know if they're gonna be as tasty.
You can get the variety, but not to the extent. You can get a lot of European varieties from European countries. You can get from Middle East, Indian, maybe Asian. I don't know how much you can get the Latin that we can. That's the one, you know. And here you can get anything.
British food is bland. Firstly, you don't know about the joys of a sausage roll, or of Yorkshire puddings, or of fish and or chips. I love British food, and if the saying is true that you are what you eat, I am 67% British food myself, but only because most of my life was spent there so far. Because American food continues to broaden my horizons and waistline. Because perhaps just as good as Old England's fish and chips is New England's clam chowder, and you've had the joy of watching me try for the first time a Philly cheesesteak. Oh, that is really good. That is really good. No, I take it all back. Cheese Whiz is my new hero. And what rhymes with cheesesteak? Sea snake, but also cheesecake. I do love a good American cheesecake. Why am I Welsh? And I'm trying to think of it like this. I miss a lot of British foods. But one day, if I ever leave America, will I miss more American foods than I do British ones? And I think due to the American variety, the answer to that is yes. And so even though I didn't even remotely believe this before moving to the United States, I think it has the better food.
Chocolate.
And so we're down to the fact.
Yeah, that Britain takes it. American chocolate is not.
I like that orange bit, the orange chocolate, and then
Okay.
slices. That was beautiful.
If we taking it like the plain milk chocolate, right?
Yeah.
European chocolate is always better. However, we do have good, like if you talk candy bars and whatnot, we do. I think it would be a tie. So I guess depends how you look at it. Because American plain milk chocolate, like the Hershey's, that's trash. But we did the chocolate comparison, and it came out to a tie. So you can we have good chocolates too. It's just let's see what he considers.
It's gonna be a tie.
In America in a 1-point
Everyone
lead,
leaves
and my
happy.
British subscribers are thinking, come on, Lawrence, American chocolate is bland. Don't you try to hoodwink us for the sake of tension and clicks. But that's not what I'm doing, because when you live in America for more than a decade, you start to see beyond the usual stereotypes. And this includes their chocolate. They find different ways to work in peanut butter, something that most British...
Right. That's
really
exactly what I
fair.
was saying. Like
That's first time someone said that from
And-
across the pond.
that's exactly why we did the chocolate comparisons, because
Yeah.
all and we do a lot of like food reactions, like European food, whatever, and every time everybody's, oh, it's so much better than American. And it can be, but whenever they take American, they take like the worst of the worst and the plainest of the plain. And what we did, we took like a good American chocolate, because it is good chocolate, and compared to good European chocolate, it came out to be a tie. So I think he is exactly right, because we do have good chocolate.
Wouldn't even think to do. That said, I often think of the chocolate I left behind in Britain, because British chocolate, like Crunches or Twirls or the Curly Whirly, were the candy of my childhood. When it comes to chocolate, you can't beat nostalgia. So, apologies America, on this one, I'm going to go with Britain. British chocolate might not be the best in the world, but it's the best in mine.
Aww, it's
and
a
so,
tie.
you know, it's a tie. And already I can hear my American subscribers going, "Ooh, Lawrence, of course you would make this a tie. You're a fan of soccer, in which nobody ever wins." Okay, so America prefers
That's
it
what I
if
said.
someone, America wins. So, in that spirit, let's do a tiebreaker.
Yes.
The tiebreaker question, plucked from the top of my head, is this. Which of the two countries has a better winter castle? Wait, no, I'm being told that's
Huh?
A very winter castle?
Yes, so in the interest of an alternative, which country has won more World Series than any other? Right, I'm not very good at this. In that case, it's a tie. So well done to both countries for equally outdoing the other. And before I go, if you like the work I do here on Lost in the
He should have done like a sports or something.
He did. He's like, who had the most?
No, not like that. Which country is more passionate about sports, or which country's sports is better, or something like that. You know. But yeah, no, this was a good video. I feel
very fair.
He kept it fair. He was being honest.
Yeah.
You know, I liked it.
At the end of the day, everyone leaves happy. No one's gonna rage in his comments.
Not that, I felt like we mostly, because we kind of gave our opinion before he did his, and we kind of agreed. You know, he agreed with us, I guess. So I feel he was fair.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. So forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord, and as always, share as much kindness as possible.